What's up, everyone? Azariel here, and welcome to another episode of the Wrap Up Review series where I do unorthodox, unbiased, and unorganized reviewing on games that I've recently finished. And in this episode, it's going to be special because it's going to be for the last two games that I've finished. So, this episode is going to be a double review, two of which are from the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles series of games, Ring of Fates and Echoes of Time, both for the Nintendo DS. So what I'm going to do is review each game in the order that I played them. So I'll review Ring of Fates first, and then I'll review Echoes of Time, and then I'll just speak about the changes that were made between them. So, Ring of Fates is a game that was released for the Nintendo DS in March of 2008, and it was the first game in the Crystal Chronicles series to be released on the Nintendo DS. The game starts off with this mysterious character named Chu Chaspel walking into this village on this stormy night, and he's overlooking this village, and then it cuts off to the next scene. Um, like you really don't know why he's there or like what his purpose is, but he looks pretty evil. But then the game cuts off into this next scene. This is when you meet Yuri and his sister Chalinka. Um, both of their kid, Yuri, Chalinka, their father Serlatrov. I hope I got that right. Uh, and I could never get this guy's name right throughout this entire playthrough. Al Hanalim, I hope that's how you pronounce it, and Meath. And Yuri and Chalika's father is chopping wood, and eventually both of the kids decide that they want to, take a turn at chopping the wood. And their father lets them, and they have a hard time lifting up the hatchet until they get told to use the power of believing, and they were able to do it then. It's kind of weird. And a little ways into the storyline, their father goes into town, and Yuri and Shalika follow them into the town, and then the game pretty much just takes off from there. Like their father gets lost by going into this back part of town where there's a bunch of monsters. Yuri and Chalika follow him, and yeah, like the game just takes off from there. um, there are plot twists and climaxes within the story that I'd rather not spoil if you haven't played the game or haven't watched my playthrough, but there's some pretty good moments in there. The controls are pretty basic and are really easy to get used to. Like you have a button to jump, carry items, gather items, um, and attack are the same button. And if you hold it down, you're able to perform like this, like a power charge attack. And there's a button for like these tribe abilities, which activates, each character's unique abilities and can be used for combat and or solving puzzles within a game. There's the warriors whose um, special abilities are, is that they pretty much start off with like three hits um, in a combo, and their tribal ability is when you activate it, you pretty much just use your stylus and like you just tap on the monsters, and he just zip and the character just zips over there and it just strikes them with like a powerful hit. And the Yuke's tribal ability is that they have, when it's activated, excuse me, ugh, my fault. But yeah, with the Ukes, they have a tribal ability that when it's activated, like as you're going through the dungeons, there are these magic lamppost objects, and when you activate their tribal ability, basically what you're doing is you're trying to guide that magic to pretty much wherever so like it's needed on the screen. So for example, there could be like some candles around, and this lamppost has the 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 element of fire. And what you would have to do is that you would have to activate his tribal ability and then use your stylus to guide that magic over to these candles, and you may have to light them up, you know what I'm saying, in succession. and then that can lead to like a chest appearing, or more times than none, like a door just opening up, etc., etc. Then you have the lilties, which are like the chemists or slash cooks of the game. And what they do is that they can create magicites. As you're traveling through dungeons, there are certain areas where they can use their tribal ability, and like it's this colored gas that just like puffs up, and when they stand next to it with their tribal like with their tribal ability activated, basically it turns into like this little mini game where you just mix in, certain elements together, and it forms into a new magicite, aka magic. So it's basically like just free magic that you're able to make. um Now, just speaking on the dungeons in the game, they are tedious at times, but fairly simple and can get repetitive. It's pretty much like you defeat this wave of enemies, uh, of monsters. Like this wave of enemies or this wave of monsters, and like either for a key or a box or like some type of switch to show up, and then like you would either have to pick up the key and like place it in this panel for like a door to open, or you would have to step on this switch, and in some cases you would have to pick up a box and then put it on the switch so that it can be activated, because like the switch needs something heavy on it in order to activate it. And that's pretty much it for Ring of Fates. Echoes of Time is the second game in the Crystal Chronicles series for the Nintendo DS, and is the sequel to Ring of Fates, that came out a year later in the same month. Echoes of Time doesn't pick up where Ring of Fates left off, so I don't know if I can really call it a sequel. But then again, it did come after, so I guess you can call it a sequel or whatever. But it goes off into its own storyline. The game takes off with this opening where this old man is chasing after this little girl, and then she stumbles in front of this lake with a giant crystal floating in midair. And you know, and when she falls down, the old man tries to reach for her and tries to grab her, but then like this crystal starts shining or whatever, and he starts burning up and he starts laughing uncontrollably, and then the scene just cuts off into the next part of the game where you basically just start off as this little baby that was brought up in this village of people, and it's your coming of age ceremony, which is like a rite of passage into where you're able to, like just stand on your own 2 feet, and then you go through this forest in the back of the village to fight through these monsters and this guardian who is pretty much like the first boss in the game. And when you make it to the lake, you meet this girl named Charlotta. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Who was your caretaker since you were born, or just pretty much, what I'm saying, like since you were a little baby, and she gives you a crystal, and then you head off into town to meet this guy named Larkikas. And after meeting him and you have a conversation with him, he sends you on a mission to activate these 2 pylons. But after you do, turns out this guy tricked you, and then all these crazy things starts happening, and everyone but 2 people in the village. It's a helicopter flying real low over my house, so I just have to, yeah. But everyone but 2 people in the village disappears, and you don't know why. You have no idea where they could have gone, and then the story just takes off from there. The combat in this game has changed a little bit. Like the combat controls have changed a little bit since Ring of Fates. The carry button and the gather button are the same. Uh, um, the tribe abilities are gone. In both games, you have this charge guard ability where after you attack, you push L and it will, sound like just, block hits. But in the previous game, after you attack, you would hold down R. The stages in this game are simple, but I would say like more so repetitive and more tedious. And like the puzzles in this game are tedious as ever, and in many cases it's just real stupid and annoying. It's like no convenience at all. Here's the thing: in RPGs, the one thing that you would do, like when it comes to puzzles, is basically like, okay, like you would solve this puzzle and like this door would open up nearby. It's not really the case in this game. It's pretty much like, saying, like with the puzzles in this game, it's like you would go to like the far side over here in order just to open up a door that's all the way back over here, and it just didn't. It really doesn't make any sense. For example, there was one part in the game where they wanted you to slide boxes all the way to the back of the room, and like mind you, like the room is like very big. You know, you know, it's pretty much like just big, and you would have to take these boxes which are heavy, and you would have to push them all the way to the back of the room in order to get them on these switches in order for the in order for this door to open. And once you do that, and it's like it's three of these boxes, mind you, and they have like three switches, so you have to do this three times. And after you then got bored with pushing all of these boxes all the way over here, and saying, like hit all the switches, a door opens up all the way on the other side, and it's just like, what the hell? Why would you put the switches over here and then have a door open up? You know what I mean? And they do that so much throughout the game where it just really gets annoying, and it's like, come on, you guys could have did a better job with these than this. I mean, at times it was fun, but after a minute it just got so annoying. Like, why should I have to travel all the way over here just to open up something that's over here? You know what I mean? It just didn't make any sense. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some of the changes in between the games. Okay, so some of the changes that have happened between just both of the games. Mind you, both games you have up to four characters in your party. In Ring of Fates, you get one of each class, and that's pretty much forced on you. You know what I'm saying? Just as you play through the storyline. In Echoes of Time, you have a choice whether or not you want to add more characters to your party, how many you want to add. What I'm saying, like, do you want all of the same kind of character? Saying, like their gender, their names, etc. The AI controlled characters do more in Echoes of Time. In Ring of Fates, they just stand there and do nothing, and it's like you're fighting these group, like this group of monsters, and the majority of the time they won't even help you out. Like every now and then, saying, like one might just like do like one swing, or like one little wimpy swing, and that's basically it. In Echoes of Time, you get to set the AI for if you want the characters to be more, reserved, or more so offensive. Do you want them to use more magic, less magic? Like heal more often, uh, defend themselves, etc., etc. In both games, when you defeat monsters, you pretty much get drops of like gold to like materials, and then they have scrolls that you get, which are basically just blue, what are basically just blueprints for like forging armor and weapons. In Ring of Fates, this was more so emphasized on because some of the best weaponry and armor can only be obtained through forging those items. In Echoes of Time, it's basically irrelevant because the armor and weapons level up as you defeat the monsters in the game. So it's really to the point where you don't even have to worry about buying the next set of armor, what I'm saying, for like this next stage in the game, like you would have to do in most RPGs. After you reach a certain point, this armor gets useless and you would have to buy the next set. That's not the case in Echoes of Time because the armor and weapons level up and they get stronger to the point where that's not even really, like necessary. Um, it was one other change that they did was that they removed magicites and HP and MP potions from the shops. In Ring of Fate, you had to buy magic in order to use it. Um, and even then, you would have to. And even then, you would only be able to carry so much at a time. Like just unless you bought like a bag for the corresponding item to increase the limit of how much of that item you could carry, which is kind of stupid when you think about it. In Echoes of Time, they completely got rid of that. You have all of the magic at your disposal already, and the HP and MP healing items are in barrels in the dungeon, and all you have to do to use those items is like just pick them up. And yeah, so that's basically it. Overall, I think with Ring of Fates, it wasn't as much of like, well, how can I put it? With Ring of Fates, it pretty much just sets you up for everything that Echoes of Time, was going to throw at you. It basically was just like practice for Echoes of Time. That's pretty much like the basic, well, like the easiest thing that I can say at the moment. Um, it's pretty much Ring of Fates was just practice for Echoes of Time. There wasn't any post gameplay in it. Basically, what you would do is that you would beat the game. The game starts over from the beginning with you having all your upgrades, all your armor, and what have you, and you will basically just play through the game again. In Echoes of Time, there's actually some, and I really emphasize on that word some content, but it's so little that it doesn't really satisfy. You know what I mean? Um, like only one other dungeon opened up, and of course there's the option where you can do like a new game plus, where you just start over with all of your items or what have you. And yeah, plus like after you beat the game once, there's this new area that opens up that has a bonus boss uh there, to where if you play Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on the Nintendo GameCube, you would actually recognize this boss. So that was a cool little thing that they added up in there. So overall, what do I think of the two games? Well, with Ring of Fates, they did a good job on the storyline. The combat was okay, even though it is like a bit repetitive at times. Um, well, what I'm saying at times for, it's really repetitive. Period. um, and it is too in Echoes of Time, but with Ring of Fates, I feel like it's more storyline driven. With so like with Echoes of Time, I feel like you have a choice on like certain things within the storyline, but that storyline is saying like pretty much linear itself. So, but I feel like the storyline in Ring of Fates was a little bit better. But everything else was, like a little bit better in Echoes of Time outside of that. So overall, what would I score these two games if it mattered? With Ring of Fates, just factoring in everything, all the negatives and positives, I would give Ring of Fates a 7 out of 10. With Echoes of Time, I would give that a 7.8 out of 10. Not that much of an increase between the two games. However, I do think they're both good for the Nintendo DS. If you have a Nintendo DS and you're looking for some games to buy off of like eBay or what have you, off of Amazon, then these two games are two of the games that you should have. As I mentioned, years ago when I first started doing this on YouTube, that what I want to do is shine some light on like the best games on the Nintendo DS, and I feel like these two games are two of the best games that you can get on this system, on this handheld system. So that's pretty much it for this episode of the wrap up review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I'm finally done with it, and we can move on. So until next time, peace.